It's Chinese New Year, and down in the absolute chaos of Chinatown, a private eye named Walter is power walking through the crowd like he just remembered he left the stove on. He looks over his shoulder, sweating bullets, and dumps a mysterious package into a mailbox. He lets out a breath like he just dodged a tax audit, swipes a random jacket off a rack, because theft is apparently okay when you're stressed, and keeps hustling toward the street. But his luck runs out faster than a free trial. A van slams into him out of nowhere, flattens him like a pancake, and peels out. Meanwhile, his son James, a Navy commander who probably eats glass for breakfast, is busy putting his team through the ringer. In between shouting orders and looking tough, he gets the call. He heads to the morgue, where they tell him it was a hit and run. Classic. James lives out in Hawaii, so he heads home to his wife, Isla, and their 2 kids, Kai and Lonnie. He drops the news about his dad with all the emotion of someone reading a grocery list, telling his wife the old man kicked the bucket. Since he hadn't spoken to his dad in ages, he's not exactly crying a river. Isla, being the sweeter half, says he should call his stepbrother, Johnny. James shoots that down immediately, saying Johnny never picks up anyway, and honestly, neither of them had a real connection with their dad. They were basically strangers who shared a last name. Cut to Johnny, who happens to be a cop with a serious attitude problem. He's riding his bike home, probably feeling cool, only to walk in and find his girlfriend, Valentina, packing her bags. He walks up, trying to play dumb and ask what's going on. She tells him she's done, checked out, finished. Apparently, he cares about her about as much as he cares about traffic laws. To make matters worse, it's her birthday, and he completely forgot. Ouch. Johnny tries to backtrack and look regretful, but she's not buying it. She packs up and leaves him in the dust. Johnny decides the best way to handle this emotional trauma is to spend the night drinking until his liver sends a distress signal. He's nursing a hangover when he gets a call from Isla with the news about his dad. She gives him the funeral details, but Johnny is about as interested in going as he is in a root canal. Later, he's in the washroom handling business when 2 guys creep up behind him with a dagger. They flash a tattoo proving they're Yakuza, which is never a good sign in a bathroom. They tell him they're here for the package his father sent. Johnny, of course, has zero clue what they're talking about. He tells them he's already having a garbage day and really isn't in the mood. When they don't back off, he attacks. He beats them black and blue, tossing them around like rag dolls. When another guy tries to shoot him, he ducks, uses the beaten guy as a human shield, and pistol whips the gunman into next week. A massive brawl breaks out, and Johnny smashes the entire room to pieces. When one of the thugs drops a picture of Johnny's mom, Johnny loses it and finishes him off brutally. He picks up the photo and finds a hidden picture of his dad tucked inside. It's a sign. He decides to show up at the funeral after all. At the funeral, James's sister Hanani is there. James is looking around nervously because he spots 2 separate rival gangs in the crowd. The Syndicate and the Yakuza are both hanging out like it's a networking event. Someone mentions that Walter was a private eye, so he must have had some seriously shady connections. Hanani asks if Johnny is coming, but James says there's no way. Speak of the devil. Johnny rolls up on his bike just in time to get introduced to James's kids. The vibe between the brothers is icier than the morgue they just left. They start bickering immediately, trading insults and grumpy wordplay. Once the funeral wraps up and the ashes are hauled off, the brothers head back to James's house. The beef between them is simple. Walter cheated on James's mom to have Johnny. James doesn't want to talk about it because it nuked his family when he was just a kid. They sit down for lunch, and the city governor, Peter Mayo, who's an old family friend, is there too. He tries to play peacemaker, saying it's nice to see the boys under one roof and that Walter would have wanted this. Johnny cuts through the sentimentality and says he's not here for the warm fuzzies. He's here to figure out who murdered his dad. Everyone at the table freezes. The kids are quickly ushered upstairs so the adults can talk murder. Johnny explains that a hit squad came to his house last night to kill him. James rolls his eyes, saying Johnny is a magnet for trouble. Johnny drops another bomb, saying he thinks his mom was murdered too, but nobody wants to touch that topic. The room goes silent. James drags Johnny outside to have a brotherly chat. James is frustrated, telling him he's always bringing drama and that the death was just a hit and run. Johnny gets fed up and storms off. Later, Johnny is at a bar, nursing a drink and looking moody. He spots his old buddy Aokai, who's shocked to see him back in Hawaii. Aokai is part of the syndicate now and says his boss, Mr. K, wants a meeting. Johnny says hard pass, but his drink gets spiked. He blacks out and wakes up tied to a chair with Mr. K staring at him. Apparently, they have history. Johnny killed a bunch of their guys because he thought they whacked his mom. Mr. K denies it and says he was dragged here as a warning. No more attacks. He tells Johnny to go home. When Johnny refuses, they pin him down and brand him with a mark. Mr. K gives him 7 days to get off the island before they dump him by the seaside. Meanwhile, James meets with Detective Renard to get some info on his dad's case. Renard admits the whole thing is sketchy. No witnesses, no forensics, and the local cops are acting like they're on a permanent coffee break. James asks about security cameras, but apparently, the only one around wasn't even working. James points out that it's pretty weird for a PI to go out like that without an investigation. Renard tells him there's no evidence of foul play and hands over Walter's personal effects. As James leaves, Renard warns him that digging deeper is like poking a bear. James looks him dead in the eye and says he is the bear. James checks his dad's stuff in the car and finds a flash drive and a piece of paper with a bunch of scribbles. Meanwhile, Johnny sneaks into his dad's house to look for clues. He checks the desk and finds a gun, standard PI equipment. Suddenly, someone else walks in. Johnny hides, and when the guy starts rifling through things, Johnny jumps him. He throws random objects at the intruder and jumps out the window to the street. The intruder runs, but Johnny tackles him. He demands answers, and the guy, whose name is Pika, says Walter was like a father to him. Pika was Walter's personal hacker. Johnny asks what the last job was, and Pika says Walter wanted him to get a gig with a catering company called Nualoa. Johnny decides he's the new boss and pours Pika a drink. James goes to the accident scene and spots a camera on a nearby adult shop that the cops missed. He goes in and bribes the clerk for the footage. The manager comes out and tries to kick him out, but James isn't having it. He decides to use his fists to get the tape. Back at Walter's place, Johnny finds a blueprint hidden inside a surfboard. Hanani, who works for Governor Mayo, helps identify it. It's a plan to demolish a bunch of homes and schools. Pika is about to leave when James bursts in. Johnny jokes about James finally suspecting foul play. They watch the footage and see the crash was definitely intentional. The car had no plates. Johnny decides they need to find every blue van in town and investigate the catering company. They leave the cramped apartment and hop in James's car to connect the dots. They're arguing, as usual, when they get T-boned by another car. A hit squad opens fire. James floors it while Johnny grabs his gun. He shoots, but the enemy car has bulletproof glass. James manages to kill one guy, and Johnny kicks the door open to escape. They're pinned down, so James climbs his own car and jumps over the attackers like an action hero. They shoot the windshield, but it holds. Johnny tells James to jump and shoots the gas tank. The cars explode in a massive fireball. James is safe but heartbroken because that was his favorite ride. Renard shows up to lecture them about the chaos. He reveals the attackers were Yakuza and drops the news that Johnny isn't even a cop anymore. He got suspended months ago. James hands over the drive with the crash footage. Renard warns them again and leaves. That evening, Hanani reveals the blueprints are for a property funded by Marcus Robichaux, a guy who owns half the island. They realize it's not for apartments, but for a casino. Gambling is illegal, so this is big. Hanani mentions Robichaux is hosting a fundraiser tomorrow. The next morning, Johnny is hyped to see James's big bike, but James makes them ride their dad's old motorcycles instead. They ride to the proposed casino site, which is currently a historic Hawaiian village. Pika calls to say the cops fished a blue van out of the ocean with a body inside. Renard confirms it's the hit-and-run vehicle. The van is registered to Hayashi Imports, a Yakuza front. Pika suggests they start by crashing Robichaux's party since his catering company is working it. At the party, the brothers sneak in dressed as waiters. Johnny spots a gorgeous woman and decides to follow her because, well, he's Johnny. He charms her on the balcony while James gets stuck washing dishes. A guy named Nakamura comes up to James, demanding a plate and snorting cocaine like it's sugar. The woman Johnny is talking to hears his last name and gets curious. She knew Walter. When Johnny tells her Walter is dead, she looks genuinely upset. James checks the credit card the cocaine guy used. It says Hayashi Imports. Bingo. Johnny asks the woman how she knew his dad. She drops the bomb. She's Monica Robichaux, Marcus's wife. She hired Walter to catch her husband cheating so she could divorce him and take him to the cleaners. James calls Johnny over when Nakamura approaches again. James hands back the card and asks what the Yakuza wants with Robichaux. Nakamura gets threatening, and Monica quickly leaves, slipping Johnny an address. Robichaux's guards grab the brothers and drag them to his office. Robichaud thinks they're just dumb muscle, but admits they're smart. James reveals who they really are. Robichaud acts shocked that Walter is dead and claims he hired Walter to spy on Monica because she was the one cheating. Johnny isn't buying it and starts playing with a live grenade to make a point. Robichaud kicks them out. The next morning, Johnny goes to Monica's address and sees a crowd. She fell from the building and died. Furious, Johnny storms Robichaud's mansion. He's taking out guards left and right by the pool, but he gets tased before he can reach the boss. Robichaud stands over him, and Johnny accuses him of killing Monica. Johnny ends up in jail, but Governor Mayo bails him out. Mayo tells him to let the police handle it. He gives Johnny a speech about the darkness in his family and tells him to rely on his brother. James is waiting outside and is absolutely furious. He screams that smashing everything won't bring their mom back. Johnny snaps and headbutts him. They get into a brutal fistfight in the rain. James eventually knocks Johnny down. Johnny asks what kind of man abandons his little brother. James admits he sent Johnny away to protect him from the syndicate. They finally apologize and hug it out. Back home, Isla is lecturing them when Valentina calls Johnny. She's in Hawaii with the package Walter mailed. It's the flash drive. Johnny tells her to bring it over. She arrives, still mad, but hands it over. Pika plugs it in and finds an encrypted wallet. They need a 12-digit code. James remembers the bill from Walter's stuff. It's the code. Just then, a chopper appears and starts shooting up the house. They jump in a car, with Valentina driving like a pro. The chopper wrecks the road, but Valentina drifts past the wreckage. A biker tries to chase them, but she spins the car and knocks him over. Johnny and James finish off the ground troops. Johnny grabs a rifle and shoots at the chopper, but misses. James takes the gun, aims calmly, and lands a perfect headshot on the pilot. The chopper crashes and explodes just as they drift into a tunnel. They find a quiet spot. James is mad because now his wife's car is wrecked too. Pika checks the drive. It shows Robichaud paying Governor Mayo $12 million a year to legalize gambling. The Yakuza are there for protection. Hanani, not knowing the truth, takes the blueprints to Mayo. Mayo plays dumb, says he'll handle it, and keeps the evidence. The brothers realize the blue van driver probably gave Walter the drive. Mayo realizes the leak, calls Robichaud, who calls the Yakuza. They torture the driver, who gives up Walter, leading to his death. The brothers rush home to save the family, but the house is trashed. They find the kids hiding in the bathroom, but Isla and Hanani are gone. Robichaud sends a video demanding the drive. The brothers are done playing games. They raid James's secret weapons stash and gear up. They hit the mansion, using silencers to drop guards quietly. They create a distraction with a car alarm and blow up a group of henchmen. James shoots a guy through a glass window when the idiot opens it to check the noise. They dump the bodies in the pool. Inside, the power cuts. A guard checks the fuse box and sees the pool full of floating bodies. He tries to warn the others, but gets stabbed. Johnny answers the guard's radio and says, "See you soon." The Yakuza and Robichaud get ready for war. James takes on a hallway full of guys, fighting like a machine. Johnny frees the women. Isla tells James to teach these guys a lesson. Johnny goes after Robichaud while James faces off with Nakamura. It's a sword fight now. James gets pinned but manages to kill Nakamura with his own blade. Johnny catches Robichaud, but gets hung up on a meat hook. Robichaud is about to shoot him when James arrives. Johnny reveals he swiped a grenade pin. He drops the grenade, blowing Robichaud up and sending himself into the water. James dives in and saves his brother. The next morning, the police arrest Governor Mayo. He tries to talk his way out of it, but nobody is listening. Later, the family celebrates on the beach. Mr. K shows up and hands Johnny a paper with the name of his mother's real killer. It wasn't the syndicate. He leaves them in peace. Johnny shows James the paper, then throws it into the fire. He's done chasing ghosts. He has his brother, and that's enough. If you like this recap of The Wrecking Crew, smash that subscribe button for more.